Now let me talk about logistics, and I've shown you a couple of pictures there, which I think are pretty helpful. So from a logistics system standpoint, we want everything flowing and working properly. That means that it cannot be chaos. In the book, Task Planning and Integrated Control, and for some people, their own individual operating manuals, we can go ahead and take a look at this section that says create self-sustaining logistics systems. This is on page 263. Let me read this. Logistics on site must be controlled to work optimally because production is gained mostly through supply lines, access to work, and the ability to bring materials just in time. The scheduling, coordination, laydown, delivery, and hoisting of materials must be quick and support the installation of the work. A logistics supervisor with stable and remarkable logistics systems are what is needed to succeed. So at the research laboratory, our office trailer was on a quarter of a city block, and we had traffic control here. Well, actually, we had it quite a few places. And then this was the project right here, $100 million project. The first thing that logistics coordinator would do, whether it's the super, an assistant super, or even a foreman on the project site that you have working for you, they need to maintain and check certain things every day. So the one that worked with me as a partner to help me out would come and check the traffic control every morning. First thing, would then come over here and check the entryway, the gates where the trades would come in. Once the gates were open and he knew that people could come into the trailer, he would come over here to the project site and make sure that there were no storms the day before and anything that had to be checked from a SWIP standpoint. So go ahead and check that. Along the way, looked at the site to make sure there wasn't too much dust. So if there was dust, the first thing in the morning, we would get out there with some laborers and water it down, or we could schedule a water truck. Once he did his walks in the morning, went over to check the hoist to make sure that it was in good working condition, would start it up, get the power on, everything ready for the hoist operator, and then come over here back and check the dumpster location on the way back and was ready to come over here for the morning huddle. So all of those things were checked. Now, if you're a lone superintendent on a job, maybe you have to do this yourself. Maybe this is the superintendent's job. But if not, if you have a field engineer, you should be, as the super, doing more planning, executing, making sure that we're getting everybody running for the day. You can have your field engineer check that, or your assistant super. And if you have a logistics foreman, so a logistics carpenter, laborer, finisher, or whatever, this is somebody that's a part of your labor force, you can delegate that to them. The bottom line is, to have good logistics, it needs to be checked consistently every day. I know that a lot of projects, people are like, I'm the only superintendent. So great. So just plan this as the first 15 minutes of your day. And then if you ever do get an assistant super, field engineer, or logistics carpenter, let's just go ahead and head in that direction and get what we need. Now, there's a concept that I want to talk to you about that's really important. On the research laboratory, we had a crane, and there was a tower crane. There was also a forklift, and then we had a hoist. These were our logistics systems. So the crane would get things around, the forklift would get things around, and our hoist would get things around. This would hoist it up. This was our crane. This would transport information. Each of these areas, sometimes you have smaller jobs, but you can still scale it. On the job that I'm talking about, each of these things had an operator. Crane had an operator, forklift had an operator, hoist had an operator. These people are not just victims of circumstance. These are literally deputies. I'm not saying that we're the cops and workers are the bad people. These are people that you can deputize and like literally put a badge on them and say, all right, crane operator, this is where things go. I need you to make sure that the riggers are following safety rules. We only put things in the coordinated staging location, and I want you to help me enforce the rules. Forklift operator, you should have a map showing where everything goes every day. Make sure everybody's safe. Make sure to check the rigger training, RIGGER. I want to make sure that the people that are trained for rigging, because they're different than the operator, that they know what they're doing. And then the hoist operator, nothing goes up unless it has a designated location. Paint your pallets. Make sure that everything's clean. These are deputies. You're the sheriff and they're the deputy sheriff. They are not, oh, I'm just going to go out there and do what everybody wants. They work for you and they serve the people. They don't work for the people and serve the people. They work for you and they serve the people on the project site. So they need to help you enforce the cleanliness rules, the scheduling rules, all of the things that we have going on the project. And that's probably one of the biggest value add things that we can do on the job site. And if you're a lone superintendent with one forklift and you've got trades that are doing it, you appoint one or two trade partner people, approved drivers for the forklift, and you deputize them. You say, hey, these are my rules. You'll have your certification. It only goes in these stages in these pre-approved locations. This is how you move things. You always have to have a spotter. So you deputize them. You're the sheriff. They're the deputy sheriff. You have to have help or else logistics will get out of control and become your personal nightmare. The other thing from a logistics standpoint is I personally believe in a system where we really don't tolerate too much by way of getting out of line. Two things: if we don't in the morning huddle when we're huddling, or the afternoon huddle with the foreman, in those huddles, if somebody says, hey, I have a delivery, that immediately should go on the day plan. Once it's on the day plan, we say, where does that go? Well, the approved location to where we don't have to move it 5 or 6 or 7 different times is right there. That material needs to go right there. That map should be copied or printed and distributed out to your deputized people, your forklift operator, your hoist operator, your crane operator. And one thing you have zero tolerance for, which doesn't mean you punish people, but you make them fix it immediately, is if the forklift operator takes this and goes, oh, they wanted it over here. Well, no, that's not where it was coordinated. Now we're going to have to move it 5 or 6 times. We get them in the habit of, no, move it where it's got to go. Otherwise, it's going to be in people's way. It's going to delay people. It's going to be a problem. We have to get people trained in that direction. So zero tolerance for not staging it where it goes. That's number one. The second one, and maybe on some open greenfield projects, we don't have this problem, but a delivery schedule. The delivery schedule is super important. Like if you have lots of deliveries and they're all coming through the hoist, right? And the electrician was scheduled to come over here and unload at 9 a.m. and the duct guy comes in, their truck shows up early, sitting out there on the road, and they're like, oh, 8:30, I'm just going to go do it, right? So they go hit there first. Now I've got 6 electricians standing around and it's taken at least 45 minutes. We just stole a couple, $400, $500, $600, $700 from that trade from the electrician. We don't do that. We follow our delivery schedule. So if we have a delivery and it was scheduled at 9 and another truck is freaking out trying to make their emergency become our problem, we're like, okay, no, you need to go ahead and queue up over here on the road, automatically have a queuing area and tell them what time to come back. I personally feel like when it comes to logistics, if you're on a job where you need a schedule and you don't have enough space, you have to hold to that schedule. And if somebody comes not on time, you queue them up and you let that electrician go on time like they had previously planned on doing. From a logistics standpoint, I will say that things will start to tear down or go into a state of decay throughout your job site. And so having a group me text or a WhatsApp chat, which is my preference, WhatsApp, is really great. So remember, our trailer was right over here. I had 2 chats. So it was Jason Schroeder to the carpenters and laborers that work directly for me. And then I had another chat that went out to the foreman on the project site. But if I walked around the job site and I was like, oh, this entryway sign needs a little bit of a repair. Oh, hey, these steps over here need a little bit of a repair. Hey, there's weeds growing over here. There's, I'm walking to the job site and I'm seeing these things. We need an immediate way to communicate that. And I would immediately, if it was something that we needed to fix as a general contractor, I would put it in this chat. And if it was something like, hey, trade partner, you put this rebar over here, but tomorrow the electrician needs that space for rough-in on the deck, I would use this chat. So my point is, on a daily basis, there's usually going to be about 10 or 15 things that you need to correct, and you need quick communication systems, and at a minimum cover this in your huddles to go make sure that things are being put back into repair on your project site, because everything on a project site naturally goes into a state of disrepair. This is a strategy. Appoint a craft leader to help maintain the logistics. Deputize your crane, hoist, and forklift operator to make sure things are going the way you want in the right spot. Begin a WhatsApp text chat with your foreman and your internal folks to always maintain and improve the site. Have zero tolerance for logistics, cleanliness, and organization. That doesn't mean punishment. That doesn't mean anger. That means you have them stop and fix those things right away. And always make sure, again, that we're taking care of our craft with great bathrooms. We're taking care of our neighbors. Nothing hits the floor. We always have just-in-time deliveries from the laydown areas. Keep the cords off the floor, everything off wheels. Keep the access ways clear, and make sure that we're maintaining a remarkable, beautiful, organized environment. So those were some of my summaries from a logistics system standpoint. And this, again, can be scaled from any size project to any other size project. It's just who's going to do it, what's my standard system, and how am I going to enforce it in a positive, consequential type way, meaning with consequences, not punishment, meaning we need to have standard systems and know exactly how we're going to deal with deviations instead of having to deal with it in the moment. So the 2 things that we covered, number 1, we must have great interaction spaces inside the trailer and outside. And with those interaction spaces, we must maintain a logistical system that can get materials where we need them with the right access on time, because if we can get that stuff here, we can obviously build it. So I hope you've enjoyed these videos. On we go.